I'm not sure if you guys have heard Chad or myself speak about this over the past month. However, Chad, me, and another coworker of ours actually participated in a month-long weight loss challenge over October, as well as Sober October. Yeah, pretty impressive. And as you guys have gotten to know me over the last 8-9 months, and seemingly every time I put my hands on the lectern, I mentioned drinking at least once. So, as you can imagine, that was a difficult challenge for myself. But when you get 3 competitive guys into a challenge and you put some money on the line, you're gonna get guys that are going to the extreme. So we did, over the course of the month, we did a great job. All lost a nice, good chunk of weight. But the hardest part with this challenge was there was a concrete date when it was over. So I think anybody can do something for a month and stay disciplined. However, doing something afterwards and continuing that momentum, I think, is the most difficult part, especially with something like this. So going into November, I had 2 goals. 1, have a badass mustache. And 2, come up with another form of physical activity that I could really improve on and learn about as the workouts that I had been doing. I mean, they weren't mundane, and I've been doing them my whole life, but I wanted to try something new. So that brings me to the calm physical form of yoga. And that's kind of what I've been working on the last couple of weeks. So despite not being a middle-aged woman, as most yoga participants are, I knew that I would gain a number of benefits from yoga. For myself, the main things that I was looking for, I've always been an athlete for most of my life, as you guys have heard me speak about, but my weakest point is definitely my balance. So with winter coming up, anytime you put me on ice, I'm falling down pretty much. Ice, skates, water, it's not great. So I knew I'd had to improve on my balance. The second most important thing that I was looking to get out of yoga was working on my flexibility. Of my workout routines currently, my least favorite part is stretching. So I tend to avoid that. So flexibility was something that I knew that I had to work on, and yoga would kind of put me in that position to improve on that aspect of my health. So when looking at all the other benefits of yoga, I didn't really think about the mental side, but it's a great way to decrease stress, relieve anxiety, and then I learned a whole bunch of other stuff about your kind of other health benefits, whether it's working on like depression, working with heart health, and reducing inflammation, which are all really great things that I think are stuff that should benefit a whole bunch of people, as well as increased strength, just holding different poses, working different muscles that I'm not used to working when I do a typical workout routine. So after knowing all this, I was ready to go. I was geared up and all set, and I thought I could just hop into a yoga class, but apparently there's like 6 different styles. So I had to learn about the different class variations. These are the ones that are, for the most part, introduced at the gym that I'm at. So I learned about some of these ones. The first one, Hatha Yoga, or Hatha, I'm not 100% sure how to say it, is kind of the beginner form of yoga. It's about holding poses for a longer period of time, really having an understanding of the pose, finding your breath, and it's more of a slower paced version of yoga. Then there's Vinyasa and Ashtanga yoga, which are very similar. That's more of a free-flowing yoga. So I'm currently doing Vinyasa yoga, where you're more moving from one pose to another in a more flowing way. And for me, it kind of keeps my mind thinking about the next step and what I'm going to do next versus just getting into a lunge position and letting my mind kind of wander. The next kind that I have on there is the easiest version is restorative yoga. So this is more for people that are just looking for the relaxation part of yoga. You're using more props to get into these poses, so the muscular use is not as prevalent. So for the restorative part, you're basically just working on your breathing, and a lot of these classes are offered at the end of a work week when you're trying to release all of the stresses and kind of get into a right mental mindset. And then the last one that I have on there is Bikram or hot yoga, and as you guys can deduce from the title of that form of yoga, this is basically just yoga in a sauna, and you want to sweat out as much as you possibly can. pretty much. So now that I learned about the class variations, I was ready to roll. And I've been doing this for a couple weeks now. I think I've done 4 classes. So I wanted to share kind of what my experience with the yoga has been so far and where I'm kind of looking to go with it. So far, having classes at 5:30 in the morning, this here is my favorite pose. Yes, that is a pose. So that usually is how we begin and how we end the yoga classes with some type of variation of that. So that one I look forward to. This here is called the Warrior 2 pose. And there's a number of variations of the warrior poses, but in Vinyasa yoga, at least the level that I'm doing right now, a lot of the physical and movement parts, when you're really starting to activate the muscles, the core, the improving on flexibility and balance, comes from one of the warrior poses, and that's when you're really moving into the other poses. So I know that's when I've got to get some work done. And that third one is maybe I'd just like to do that one someday. I don't know. I think I'm going to have to move on from this being my favorite pose to get there, but maybe one day. So yeah, I've learned a lot of things from doing yoga so far. Some things that I've really enjoy about it is that it doesn't matter your experience level. Pretty much anybody can go into a beginner yoga class and you work at your own pace. So however deep you can get into a stretch, for instance, or a pose is kind of all on your own, what feels right for your body. So I like the way that you can progress on your own pace. And I've noticed that it will really help me turn off my mind. I'm not there yet. I'm thinking about a lot of things, whether it's the hot dish I'm going to have for dinner. Just a number of things are going through my head when I'm in this kind of relaxed pose and I'm trying to shut off my brain more and get into more of a meditative state. So with that, that's what I've learned so far. If any of you guys have questions on yoga or even suggestions for me, as I'm still new to it, but any questions or suggestions, I'm willing to hear more. And thank you guys. Namaste.